Today we're going to talk about topic 3, courses of loss forms. In the previous chapter, we talked about 3 types of BPP. It covers either building or business personal property or property of others. Now, although they are called BPP, it does not need to include all of these 3 coverages. So for example, if one insurance policy only covers building, it will still be qualified as BPP. Now, the commercial property does not necessarily need to be BPP. For example, for some general commercial property policy, there are actually 3 types of causes of loss forms that specifies the underlying coverage. In this chapter, we will investigate these 3 causes of loss forms respectively. So there are 3 types of causes of loss: the basic form, the broad form, and the special form. The basic form and the broad form are very similar. They will specify certain types of causes that will be covered. The special form, on the other hand, would not specify any covered loss. Instead, it will specify the losses that are not covered. In another word, special form is actually unlimited coverage. Unless it has specified as a non-covered peril, everything will be covered under the special form. So let's take a look at basic and broad forms. On your left-hand side, these 2 columns are the perils that will be covered by both basic and broad form. On your right-hand side, the 1 column refers to those perils that are only covered on the broad form. First, let's take a look at those perils that are only covered under that are covered under both basic and broad forms. Lightning. For example, if the surge of voltage that has damaged a computer is result from lightning, then it will be covered under this lightning peril. However, if this surge was caused by excessive voltage generated by the utility company, then it will not be covered. So the surge of voltage will only be covered if it is result as a natural lightning. Explosion. Explosion refers to a large-scale, rapid, or spectacular expansion or bursting out of force. It will exclude water-related perils. For example, excess moisture in grain storage silo or elevator caused a sudden expansion and collapse of the structure. The cause of loss would not be covered under this explosion peril. It also excludes explosion of steam boilers, steam pipes, steam engines, or steam turbines that is owned by or leased by the insured or operated under the insured's control. However, it does not apply to the steam boilers that are not under insured's control. The next thing, smoke. It is actually a limited smoke peril. It is limited to the smokes that causing sudden and accidental loss or damage. Therefore, the smoke from agricultural smudging or industrial operations would not be included. Riot or civil commotion. Now, usually we will think theft as a civil commotion. However, it is usually excluded from most coverages. However, looting occurring at the time and place of a riot or civil commotion will be covered under this coverage. Sinkhole collapse. It refers to the empty spaces created by the action of water or limestone or dolomite. Well, does it cover mine substance? Well, it does not, because it does not cover any man-made underground cavities For example, if New York City is expanding its underground subway service, then they're digging a tunnel beneath the ground. If there is a sinkhole collapse resulted from that, it would not be covered under the sinkhole collapse because that tunnel is a man-made cavity. Falling object. The first thing you need to know about falling object is that it is only covered under the broad form. So if you purchase only basic form, then falling objects will not be covered. Also, the falling object exclude damages to personal properties in open. So for example, if you put one machine outdoor, then any damage towards that machine will not be covered because it is in an open air. However, if you keep your machine indoor and a big tree falls on your house and then destruct the machine, in that case, it will be covered. So any damage to the interior of a building or structure or property inside of a building of the structure will be covered if that damage first damages the roof or an outside wall. The second thing is weight or snow, ice, or sleet. Now those exclude damages to personal property outside of a building, and also it excludes damages from other types of water. In the detail, we're going to talk about the following perils. First, the fire peril. In addition to loss of property actually burned by fire, the fire peril also covers any losses that due to the heat and smoke damage caused by a hostile fire. So be very careful. Here we need to have a hostile fire. For example, if you have a fireplace in your house and for some reason you have some property that was accidentally dropped into the fireplace. Now the fire in your fireplace is actually not a hostile fire, and in that case the loss of the property that inside of the fire would not be covered. The next thing would be windstorm of hail. The windstorm of hail would not cover any losses that is caused by frost or cold weather or ice, snow or sleet, because if you look at the comparison of broad form and basic form on the previous slide, you will find out that the weight of snow, ice, and sleet are actually covered on the broad form. And since the windstorm or hail is covered on the basic form, these two should not overlap, and that is why the ice, snow, or sleet are covered under broad form but not basic form. Again, for interior damage will have to first damage this peril will have to first damage the outside of the building or the window of the building before it damages the inside property for the inside property to be covered. For example, the damage caused by rain that a windstorm blows through an open window will not be covered. However, if the windstorm breaks a window and the wind blows in rains that blow through the broken window, this policy will cover the resulting water damage. Another peril that is covered under both basic and broad form will be aircraft or vehicles. Now that only applies to the aircraft or vehicles perils that is result from a physical contact between the aircraft or vehicle and the covered property or a building containing the covered property. So what does that mean? For example, we know that when the helicopter is taking off, it will blow strong wind underneath. Now let's say, for example, if you put your property underneath that got blown away by the helicopter, it will not be covered because your property and the helicopter did not have a physical contact. In addition, this peril will not cover damage caused by vehicles owned by the insured or operated in the course of the named insured business. So if you own a business and you're driving your own car and you were suddenly backing up your car that hit your business site, that will not be covered. However, if you have a vehicle that is sold for sale, then the perils resulting from those vehicles will be covered. The next coverage that is under both basic and broad form will be vandalism. The losses that the vandalism peril do not apply will be those losses caused by theft. So we know that theft is usually a peril that would not be covered anywhere. However, in the later section of this chapter, we will know that actually theft will be covered under special form. Now, for the purpose of basic and broad form, theft will be uncovered. However, if the building has been entered by forcible entry or exit of burglars, then such loss of your property will be covered under vandalism. The next coverage under the basic and broad form will be the sprinkler leakage. Those aspects of loss covered by sprinkler leakage peril would not only apply to the sprinkler system, but also applies to the cost to repair or replace the damaged parts of the sprinkler system if the damage results in sprinkler leakage or is caused by freezing. It will also cover the cost to tearing out and replacing any part of the building. So for example, if your sprinkler did not leak, but you still want to replace it, and due to when you have this replacement, there's this damage to your ceiling, would that be covered? No, it would not be covered because it is not a sprinkler leakage. Another type of peril that will be covered under basic and broad form will be volcanic action. The first thing you need to understand is volcanic action is actually different from volcanic eruption. What does that mean? Now, volcanic action include the airborne blast or shock waves, ash, dust, or particulate matter, lava flow, and it is a specific covered cause of loss in the basic and broad form. Now, this is volcanic action. However, volcanic eruption is usually associated with the earth movement, and usually the earth movement is excluded, and therefore volcanic eruption are usually excluded. So for example, if there is a volcanic action and it blows away a lot of ash and that covers your house, and that also destroy a part of your house, and due to the volcanic action peril, it will be covered because it is volcanic ash. However, we know that sometimes when volcano erupts, it will cause some kind of earth movement, earthquake. If your house collapsed due to that earthquake, it would not be covered. Also, the insurance company will pay for tearing out and replacing any part of the building to make repairs due to volcanic action. There's this additional coverage under basic form, fungus. Since it is additional coverage, it does not automatically come with a basic form. However, you could choose to have it covered under this additional coverage. This additional coverage for fungus is limited because it pays no more than $15,000 per annual policy period. After the basic form, the next thing we're going to talk about will be the broad form. The broad form covers the perils that is actually limited water damage. It only covers damage caused by accidental discharge or leakage of water or stream as direct result of the breaking apart or cracking of plumbing, heating, or air conditioning or other systems or appliances located on the described premises. It will exclude sprinkler system leakage. Why? Because we know that sprinkler system leakage is covered otherwise by the sprinkler leakage peril. So this peril is actually called limited water damage because it does not cover the losses caused by flooding, surface water, and other sources of water excluded by the cause of loss forms. On top of that, it also excludes damages from the discharge or leakage from roof drains, gutters, downspouts, or similar fixtures or equipment. It also excludes discharge or leakage from a sump or related equipment or parts, including overflow caused by sump pump failure or excessive volume of water. So if you look at these two, the discharge of leakage from roof drains or the discharge of leakage from a sump, these items are actually outdoor, that is beyond the insurance control. And since it's beyond the insurance control, insurance company cannot impose any risk management technique to it, and that is why these are excluded. Some additional exclusions include the continuous or repeated seepage if it has continued for more than 14 days. So basically, if the seepage has been continued more than 14 days, there is a highly likelihood that the insured is performing a negligence, and thus it will not be covered. Also, it will exclude the gradual damage, the gradual seepage of water through a floor or inside of a wall because it's hard to observe. Finally, it excludes freezing or plumbing, unless the insured does his best to maintain the heat in the building or shuts off the water supply and drains the equipment if heat is not maintained. So these 3 bullet points actually avoid the hazard of negligence. So the previous 2 avoid those perils that are beyond the insurer's control, that are outdoor. These 3 perils exclude those could be resolved from insurer's negligence. Collapse is an additional coverage under broad form. Since it is additional coverage, it will be provided in addition to the basic coverage. So what are the perils that will be covered under this collapse under the broad form? Well, in order for it to be covered, there could be 2 types. The first type of collapse will be the collapse that is result from a covered peril. The other type of collapse may be result from hidden decay, hidden insect or vermin damage, weight of people or personal property, weight of rain that collects on the roof, or use of defective materials during the course of construction. Now, the collapse peril does not cover the following. First, it does not cover any building or any part of the building that is in danger of falling down or caving in. For example, have you ever heard the Leaning Tower of Pisa? It will not be covered under this collapse peril because that specific tower is in danger of falling down. Secondly, it does not cover a part of the building that is standing, even it has separated from the other part of the building. So as long as that part of the building is still standing, it cannot be covered under collapse because it has not collapsed. Similarly, a building that is standing or any part of the building that is standing, even if it shows evidence of cracking, sagging, bending, leaning, settling, or shrinking, expansion, it would not be covered, again, because these parts of the building are not collapsed yet. Now, let's take a look at the perils that are not included in basic and broad forms. First, there's a group of 8 exclusions with leaning working that contains anti-concurrent causation language, and we'll talk about that in later slides. And there's a group of 4 additional exclusions that does not contain anti-concurrent causation language. In addition, there's a group of special exclusions that apply only to certain coverage forms other than the BPP. So let's take a look at what it means to be anti-concurrent causation language. For example, first let's take a look at what is concurrent causation. Let's say that there are 2 perils. Peril A is covered under insurance policy. Cover B will be not covered. If peril A and peril B happen together and cause the loss happen, without anti-concurrent causation language, even though B is not covered, since A is covered, the consequential loss will be covered. So therefore, insurance company has revised the leaning to the exclusions in their property policies to emphasize that certain exclusions apply even if another cause is involved in the loss. For example, the war and military action exclusions will limit the coverage pretty much everywhere with an anti-concurrent causation language. So if a building has been burned down by a fire which is caused by the action of war, even though fire is a covered peril, the loss will not be covered because the war action will be excluded as an anti-concurrent causation language. How does the language look like? Here gives you an example as anti-concurrent causation language. We will not pay losses or damages caused directly or indirectly by any of the following. Such loss or damage is excluded regardless of any other cause or events that contributes concurrently or in any consequential to the loss. The first exclusion with anti-concurrent causation will be the ordinance of law. So basically, any result that associated with the ordinance of law will not be covered. The reason being that first, the cost to repair or replace the building would be very high due to the ordinance of law. Secondly, due to that high cost, the insurance company will need to charge an additional premium, and that is not necessarily what business want. In addition, the cost of construction coverage will be automatically provided in the BPP. If you look back previous slide, it will tell you that the cost of construction due to the ordinance of law is actually covered under BPP. The next anti-concurrent causation language related exclusion will be the earth movement. So anything related with earth movement will not be covered. This earth movement does not only apply to earthquake, it applies to many things. For example, it applies to landslide or mine substance. It will also exclude volcanic eruption, explosion, or effusion. Here's a question for you. What types of volcanic will be covered? Well, volcanic action will be covered under basic and broad form. However, it is not the same with volcanic eruption. Okay, volcanic eruption will not be covered, but volcanic action will be covered. Those volcanic action will include lava, include ashes, and burst of air. Another two types of anti-concurrent causation language would be the government action or nuclear hazard. So basically, any loss that is due to government action or nuclear hazard would be not covered. Utility service will be another type of anti-concurrent causation language. So any losses due to the utility service failure that is off premises of your business will not be covered. For example, if you run a supermarket, sell some ice creams, those losses of spoilage of refrigerated food due to the utility service failure would not be covered. Another type of anti-concurrent causation language related exclusion will be war and military action. We talked about this before, so any type of losses related with war and military action will not be covered. So it really depends whether the event is categorized as war, military action, or civil action. If it is recognized as a civil action, then it will be covered. Water is another type of anti-concurrent causation language. So such water exclusion will include flood, surface water, waves, tides, etc. And these types of perils are actually under the coverage of one special form of insurance that is called a flood insurance. And therefore, the basic and broad form basically exclude them to avoid duplicate coverage. Mudslide and mud flow, we know that these are actually considered as earth movement, not water, so it will not be covered. Also, the water that is used for backup through sewers, drains, or sumps will not be covered. Those water on the ground that flows received through foundations would also not be covered. Finally, fungus, wet rot, dry rot, and bacteria will not be covered if you do not include the fungus additional coverage. Okay, however, there is one exception. Any fungus that is due to fire will be covered. Let me give you two examples to illustrate that. First, if you do not change your room temperature into a proper temperature, so that maybe fungus will grow in your house, and when you tear out your carpet, you accidentally found there is a forest of mushroom growing on your floor, and that would not be covered. However, if there is a fire in your house and tons of water got sprinkled through the sprinkler system, and due to the water seep through, there is a forest of mushroom growing under your carpet, and that will be covered because it's resulted from the fire. After the 8 exclusions with anti-concurrent causation language, there are 4 additional basic and broad form exclusions that do not contain anti-concurrent causation language. So for example, insurance company will say something like, we will not pay for loss or damage caused by or resulting from the following items. So if there are 2 simultaneous costs, one cost is negligent, the other cost is fire. Since the fire is a covered peril, the whole loss will be covered because these 4 items do not associate with anti-concurrent causation language. So one of these exclusions will be mechanical breakdown. This exclusion does not, however, apply to all covered losses resulting from mechanical breakdown. For example, both basic and broad form would cover a fire that results from friction caused by mechanical breakdown of a production machine. So because the fire is a covered peril, even though eventually it's caused by mechanical breakdown, since the fire is covered, the whole loss will be covered. After the basic and broad form, let's take a look at the special form. Now the special form is very special. Instead of listing the perils covered as basic and broad form do, the special form, however, states that it covers risk of direct physical loss, subject to the form's exclusions and limitations. And as you can think of, it's actually an unlimited coverage. Any risk of direct physical loss will be covered. And therefore, special form has a lot more exclusions than basic and broad form due to its openness of coverage. So the wording in the special form will be, when special is shown in the declaration, covered cause of loss means any risk of direct physical loss with the exclusion as such and such. So let's take a look at its exclusions. Now the most distinguishable feature of special form is that it covers theft-related perils. Now since thief is really hard to prove and it will usually result in moral hazard, the special form has particular exclusions. So any theft that is result from dishonest act or voluntarily parting with a trickery, transfer of property on the basis of unauthorized instructions, loss with not enough evidence, unexplained disappearance, or theft of building materials before they're actually attached to the building will all be excluded under the theft peril because of moral hazard problem. On top of that, there are some limitations on special to limit the insurance company's responsibility. So there are $2,500 special limit on furs, shapes-related patterns, dyes, molds, and forms, jewelries, and other kinds of personal items, and also $250 for the stamped tickets, including lottery tickets, as insurance limit. The special form covers animals. However, it only covers animals if the animals are killed or their destruction is necessary because of direct loss by one of the specified cause of loss. So for example, if your stable got half burned down and some of your horses got injured, those animals, if you would like to kill them and claim insurance coverage, they will be covered because the fire is a covered peril under special form. Another item that will be covered is fragile articles, as long as the breakage is caused by specific cause of loss. For example, if there's a fire, your table got burned down, and the vase on your table got damaged, and that fragile article, that vase, will be covered because the peril is the fire. Another type of article that is covered under special form would be the builder's machinery, tools, and equipment, only within 100 feet of the described premises. What about the property in transit? Here is an extension of coverage. The property in transit extension will provide up to $5,000 of additional insurance for any damages to the insured's personal property that is on a motor vehicle further than 100 feet away from the described premises. However, these items must be on the insured motor vehicle. Either it is the named insured owns or leases or operates. Now let's take a look at some case studies to review what we have learned in this chapter. I am going to pause a little bit for you to think about the question, and then we're going to talk about the case together. So for the following losses, indicate whether they would be covered by the causes of loss basic form. First, an expensive hand tool was accidentally dropped into a smelting furnace. Would that be covered? Well, it would not be covered because the furnace has a friendly fire in it, and that's why it is not covered. All the fire hazard must be hostile fire in order to be covered. Firefighters' effort to extinguish fire caused extensive water damage to the insured building. In addition, several windows were broken by the intense heat of the fire. Would that be covered? It will be covered because of the fire peril, and it will be covered under basic form. Next, leaking natural gas accumulated in the insured's basement and exploded. Would that be covered? Well, it will be covered because we have this explosion peril that is covered under basic form. However, the explosion from your steam boiler would not be covered. So the insured steam boiler exploded, would that be covered? No, because you own this steam boiler. Next, a windstorm blew damaging rainwater into the insured's building through a window that has been left open before the storm occurs. Would that be covered? The property loss will not be covered because you negligently leave the open window. However, if the wind broke through the window and the rain blew in, it would be covered. An employee of the named insured was attempting to back up a borrowed truck to the named insured's loading dock when accidentally ran into the side of the building, causing extensive coverage. Would that be covered? Well, it would not be covered because the vehicle was being operated in the named insured's business, and that would not be covered under basic form. During a riot, several rioters looted the insured store. Would that be covered? Well, it will be covered. Now, even though what is usually considered as excluded, and also theft is considered as excluded. However, looting is considered covered under basic form under the riot peril. Next, vandals broke several windows in the insured building. Would that be covered? Yes, that will be covered under the vandalism peril. Would a vandal spray painted graffiti on the exterior walls of the insured building, would that be covered? That will also be covered under the vandalism peril. What if an old mine shaft under the insured building collapsed, causing the building's foundation and walls to crack in several places? Would that be covered? Well, it would not be covered. Now, even though sinkhole collapse is a covered peril under basic form, any sinkhole that is resulted from man-made would not be covered. And mine is one of the man-made sinkholes. The insured building was covered with ash and dust from volcanic eruption. The building was not damaged, but cleaning up the mess cost $5,000. Would that be covered? It would not be covered because the volcanic action peril does not cover the cost of cleaning up volcanic debris that has not caused any physical damage. So if there's a physical damage, the physical damage itself will be covered. However, cleaning up the mess will not be covered. Next, a steam boiler in a adjoining building not under the insurance control exploded. Would that be covered? Now we have one example previously saying that steam boiler is not covered if the steam boiler belongs to the insured. However, this steam boiler does not belong to the insured and is beyond the insurance control. That would be covered under the basic form. The next, so there's this coverage analysis includes reviewing the insuring agreement of applicable causes of loss form to determine whether it provides coverage for the cause of loss in question. So explain how in commercial property insurance, the cause of loss basic form and the cause of loss broad form are similar to each other in the way that they describe the perils they cover. Well, they both have named peril form, so both the basic and the broad form will tell you what are the specific perils that are being covered. However, under the special form, it would not specify the perils covered. Instead, the special form will specify what are the perils that are not covered. So the special form is different. Instead of identifying the cause of loss that are not covered, it covers all the cause of losses as long as they're not specifically excluded or limited by the provisions of the contract. Now, regarding commercial property insurance, in addition to the perils covered by the causes of loss basic form, what are the three perils that are covered under the broad form? There are three of them. The falling objects, weight of ice and snow, water damage will be covered under broad form, but not the basic form. Next, let's take a look at another case study. Sophia's Ben Rain bike shop has a leakage in the sprinkler system that caused water damage to property described in her building and personal property policy. Explain whether the water damage to Sophia's property would be covered if the BPP policy contained the following. First, would it be covered under the cause of loss basic form? Well, it will be covered under the basic form. Now, even though water damage is excluded in the coverage, however, such exclusions do not apply to the damage resulting from the sprinkler leakage, which in this case is the approximate cost of the damage to Sophia's property, and therefore the loss will be covered. What about the broad form? Well, that's very easy to answer, because the broad form covers a broader coverage than a basic form. So basically, anything that is covered under basic form will all be covered under broad form. So yes, it will be covered under the broad form. Here we end topic 3.